police launched an internal affairs investigation after a traffic stop involving Omaha native Terence "Bud" Crawford.
Celebrated hometown boxing champ Bud Crawford's accomplishments with a parade. He's pulled over by Omaha police, setting off a social media firestorm.
Seatbelt.
Step out.
I'm opening the door.
You can take
I'm
mine
opening the door.
off of me right here on my right. I'm keeping my fucking hands up.
I'm not reaching for no gun, bro.
Step out.
Can I move my phone?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Interview 1. Just unbelievable. Only hours after Omaha celebrated Terence "Bud" Crawford with a massive parade for his historic win over Canelo Alvarez, the boxing champion suddenly found himself pulled over and ordered out of his car at gunpoint by local police. The contrast is striking. One moment, he's the city's king, waving to thousands of cheering fans, hailed as Omaha's greatest hero. The next, he's in handcuffs on the side of the road, surrounded by flashing red and blue lights. September 27th was supposed to be a day etched into Omaha's history. Just 2 weeks earlier, Crawford stunned the boxing world with a career-defining victory over Canelo, cementing his legacy as the first male fighter ever to unify 3 divisions. The win pushed his flawless record to 42-0, with 31 knockouts. Omaha answered with pride, rolling out a parade that filled the streets with confetti, music, and cheers. Downtown Omaha was electric. Crowds pressed shoulder to shoulder, waving signs and chanting Crawford's name. Children perched on their parents' shoulders just to glimpse their hometown hero. Local leaders hailed him as a symbol of resilience and pride. But as the sun dipped, the day's celebration took an unexpected turn. From public parades to private parties, Crawford's victory lap carried deep into the night. A birthday gathering with family, friends, and fans seemed like the perfect ending to a historic day. By all accounts, the mood was flawless. Yet, as the music faded and Crawford finally made his way home, no one could have foreseen how quickly it would unravel. Around 1:30 a.m., Omaha police reported spotting a car swerving downtown. They pulled it over. What they found next flipped the night upside down, a firearm sitting plainly on the driver's side floorboard. In an instant, the atmosphere shifted. Officers shouted commands, and the scene transformed from celebration to confrontation. The commands grew sharp, movements tense. Officers ordered everyone in the car to step out, at gunpoint. One passenger began recording as the surreal moment unfolded. Just hours earlier, Crawford had been celebrated as Omaha's greatest hero. Now, he was being told to unbuckle slowly, keep his hands visible, and step into the harsh glare of police headlights. Crawford complied. Handcuffed and silent, he stood by the roadside as confusion rippled through the night. It didn't take long for officers to realize who they had pulled over: the undefeated world champion himself. In the end, Crawford received only a ticket for reckless driving. No arrests were made, and importantly, both he and his passengers were legally permitted to carry firearms. Still, the optics were impossible to ignore. A national boxing icon reduced from king of the parade to a suspect under the gun in less than a day. A world champion, standing under the glare of police flashlights like any other suspect. By sunrise, Omaha was already buzzing. Video of the stop had spread online, fueling outrage and debate. Some questioned the officer's response. Was that level of force really necessary for a traffic stop? Others shifted focus to Crawford himself. Why was the city's hero driving recklessly only hours after being celebrated like royalty? Omaha Police Chief Todd Schmidora moved quickly to address the uproar, announcing an internal affairs investigation. He promised transparency and assured the public that every detail of the stop would be reviewed. Mayor John Ewing weighed in as well, admitting in a Facebook post that his heart sank when he learnt how the city's Day of Pride had ended. Mayor Ewing pledged a full and thorough investigation, not just into the traffic stop itself, but into the fragile trust between Omaha's community and the officers sworn to protect it. And that's where the story cuts deepest. What should have been the crowning moment of Terence Crawford's career ended instead with headlines that pulled him from the pedestal and placed him under public scrutiny. For fans, the traffic stop was a shocking twist. But for those familiar with Crawford's past, it wasn't the first time his name had appeared in Omaha police reports. Behind the polished image of a world champion lies a legal history more complicated than the one seen under boxing's bright lights. Back in 2016, for example, Crawford made headlines after a dispute at a local auto body shop spiraled into criminal charges. The shop's owner claimed Crawford took matters into his own hands after a disagreement over a custom paint job turned ugly. Surveillance cameras captured Crawford and several others lowering his car from a hydraulic lift and driving it away without paying the remaining balance. In the process, the lift was damaged, with prosecutors estimating repair costs at more than $3,000. The court took the incident seriously, convicting Crawford of disorderly conduct. Crawford was ultimately convicted of disorderly conduct and property damage, receiving a sentence of 90 days in jail and 2 years of probation. For a world champion at the peak of his career, it was a shocking setback. His attorney argued the punishment was excessive, noting Crawford had no serious prior convictions. Less than a year later, a district judge agreed, overturning the jail time and ruling the sentence went too far. Still, the case was a reminder. In Omaha, Crawford wasn't just a superstar. He was also a man who could find himself in court like anyone else. Then, in 2017, came another run-in with the law. Crawford was briefly detained after a disturbance outside a clothing store, described in reports as a chaotic scene involving several people. Later, when police stopped his car, they discovered a firearm registered in his name. No charges were filed, but the headlines only reinforced a growing narrative. Outside the ring, controversy seemed to follow him. Crawford might have landed punches in the squared circle, but drama had a way of finding him on the streets. And the complications weren't limited to the law. His career, too, has been marked by battles beyond the ropes, clashes with some of the most powerful figures in boxing. For years, Crawford was signed with legendary promoter Bob Arum's Top Rank Boxing. At first, the partnership seemed like a dream. Arum's platform launched Crawford into stardom, delivering him world titles and national exposure. But behind the scenes, tensions grew. Crawford believed he was being sidelined, denied the blockbuster matchups he deserved. Most notably the long-awaited clash with Errol Spence Jr. Those frustrations eventually boiled over into a lawsuit. Crawford accused Arum not only of breaching contracts but also of engaging in racial bias that, he argued, damaged his career. The suit alleged Arum had a history of disparaging black fighters and deliberately tarnishing their reputations. According to Crawford, the promoter's actions cost him millions in lost revenue and opportunities, leading him to demand $5.4 million in damages. Arum, then 90 years old, hit back with equal force. He dismissed the allegations as reckless and indefensible, pointing to his decades-long record of promoting champions of every background. To him, the lawsuit was nothing more than an attempt at extortion. But for Crawford, it wasn't just about money. He framed the battle as one for respect, a fight not just in the ring but against an industry he believed was stacked against him. Boxing has always been a sport shadowed by politics, favoritism, and prejudice, and Crawford's case seemed to underline that reality. Even at the height of his dominance, he felt overlooked, denied the recognition and opportunities his resume demanded. His flawless record should have guaranteed it. Still, nothing could diminish Terence Crawford's accomplishments inside the ring. 4-2 wins, 0 losses, and 31 knockouts, a level of perfection most fighters can only dream about. He wasn't just undefeated. He was dominant, dismantling opponents with precision, patience, and calculated aggression. His victory over Canelo Alvarez secured his place in history, making him the first male boxer ever to unify 3 separate weight divisions. Crawford didn't just win, he redefined what was possible in the sport. Analysts hailed him as the pound-for-pound king, a once-in-a-generation fighter. Yet the legacy of a champion is never built on victories alone. Crawford's story is a paradox. On one side stands the legend, the disciplined, brilliant athlete who conquered every obstacle in the ring. On the other side stand the controversies, lawsuits, disputes, and run-ins with the law that threaten to cloud his reputation. That tension between dominance and distraction is what makes his story so compelling. Crawford's legacy could be remembered as untouchable greatness, or as greatness constantly tested by the battles he faced outside the ropes, or as a cautionary tale of brilliance overshadowed by chaos outside the ring. And that raises the question, why do so many champions find themselves fighting battles beyond the arena? Some point to the crushing pressures of fame. At the top, every move is magnified, every misstep becomes a headline. Others blame the circles that surround athletes, entourages and hangers-on who encourage reckless choices rather than protecting their friend's legacy. And of course, money plays its role. The bigger the paychecks, the bigger the temptations, and the harder it becomes to live life under the radar. For Crawford, this latest traffic stop comes at a pivotal moment. He should be basking in the glow of his greatest triumph, securing endorsements, and negotiating blockbuster rematches. Instead, His name is once again linked to flashing police lights, internal investigations, and a city divided between pride and concern. Headlines and debates over trust in law enforcement quickly followed. Could this latest incident jeopardize Crawford's sponsorships? Might promoters hesitate before booking his next mega fight? Or will fans dismiss it as just another chapter in the life of a champion who always finds a way to fight back? From a victory parade to a police investigation, Terence Crawford's story shows that even the greatest fighters can't escape life's toughest punches. For every roar of the crowd, a headline seems to lurk in the shadows. His battles are no longer confined to the squared circle. They now play out under the relentless glare of public scrutiny. And so, one question remains. Will Terence Crawford be remembered as the undefeated king of boxing, or as the champion who lost his greatest fight outside the ring?